There are so many interesting, horrifying, or downright weird things in this big world of ours.
Each week, we'll bring you a new true crime story that has little to no coverage in English.
Let us do the translations so you don't have to.
Hello, and welcome back to our podcast, Translation Murder. Before we continue with part 2 of the disappearance of Helga Farkas, we have a very exciting announcement today. What is the announcement, Petra?
Well, I'm not calling from the landline phone anymore, but using an actual mic.
Yay!
Woohoo! Fuck yeah.
Sounds
You
great.
sound great. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
So
you. Now
everyone
you
who
can
was
finally
complaining so
hear my
far.
real voice.
Yes. It's so soothing and nice.
So are you ready to continue this complicated case that is actually about to get even more complicated today for part 2?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you also had to wait actually more than 1 week since the previous part. So I hope you remember something about what we talked about the last time. So, in case you don't remember everything, and of course I'm not gonna repeat every detail, but I thought I would give you first like a very quick recap of part 1.
Yeah.
So what happened in part 1, what we discussed is that 17-year-old Helga Farkas was kidnapped on June 27, 1991. Helga came from a wealthy family. Her father had several successful businesses in Hungary in various cities. One night, she went to Orosháza, the city that she was originally from, with her family. They actually traveled there, not on the night, but during the day. And they were supposed to drive back with 2 cars to their current family home in another city in Szeged together. But the plans have changed, and actually Helga stayed behind for a little longer, and she was supposed to leave from Orosháza around 8:30 p.m. in the evening. This should have taken her about 1 hour, but instead she never arrived home. Her family soon after this started to receive ransom calls, actually on the same night already. And the police also got involved pretty quickly, but the kidnappers stopped calling them after about 3 days. Helga's abandoned Mazda was found on a service road not too far from Szeged. Within the first few days, the police started investigating 2 suspects, Juhas and Csapó, who had a friendly relationship with Helga, but this trail actually goes cold quite soon after the investigation starts. And despite this and many confusing tips and clues and witness testimonies, the investigation is closed in February 1992 when she's still not found at that point.
There was one thing, sorry, to bring
No,
up.
that's okay.
So it was basically last week. I was immediately editing the episode because I'm the episode editor, and I noticed that I didn't ask about the friend who was apparently with her when she was getting the oil change.
Oh, yeah,
So do
true.
you want to bring that up now, or do you want to discuss
I
this a
think
bit
I will
later?
bring it up now because,
Okay.
yes, so I did mention that there was a friend who went with her to get the oil changed in her car, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there's no more information about that. That's kind of a red
Oh,
herring. I
Yeah,
don't
this
know what
just kind
happened
of
to
like
the friend.
annoys me because, of course, like my parents would have known all of my friends. Oh, at least, know where their house approximately is or something like that. And hey, have you seen Helga? Or I just,
Yeah,
it seems like a bit of a shit show if the mother didn't know or to ask the
yeah.
friend. I mean, the friend could have had some information like, yeah, there was a car following us, Helga was acting a bit erratic or etc. Like it could have been
But I don't
something a
think
bit
then the
more.
friend was with her after that. So I'm not actually sure where did she call home from? Was it from the mechanic or was it from the friend's house or like where the phone call
Yeah.
actually?
But any of this could
It,
have been really nice information to know, I think.
Mm,
But
yeah. Yeah, we can imagine that maybe the mother did eventually. Maybe she knew who she was and called her,
I
and
would
she was
assume
just
that
like,
they
I don't
talked
know
to her.
anything. Like I was there,
Yeah,
then I went home, and like that there is nothing to really tell. That's why it's not
yeah.
brought up in any. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really
we don't
not brought up anywhere else, I think, or at least in the articles that I found. And I think that even this fact that there was a friend was not mentioned everywhere. This is just guessing, but I would think that at least the fact that there was a friend and then there was this mechanic that they picked up the car from, they could at the very least confirm that she was here, she made the phone call, and then she left,
yeah, I
probably.
mean, at least it establishes a bit of a timeline of, she had someone around with her up until this point,
Yeah,
and after that, I was not with her. So during this time, she was probably abducted between, well, obviously the call with the kidnappers and then her leaving the presence of Helga. But
yeah,
know.
yeah. There's nothing about, for example, that this friend would have said that, and then she ran into someone else or anything like
Mm.
that. So
Yeah,
okay.
it sounds like she left from the mechanic and
yeah, and
then
also
something
I think
happened.
from the fact that she just called before she left, like I'm heading home or something like that,
Hmm.
and didn't mention anything, kind of implies that there wasn't happening anything at that point.
Yeah,
At least anything
yeah,
Yeah.
that she would be too worried about, like that she
Yeah.
thought that it's worth mentioning.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
It's so
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anyways, this was kind of the first case of this type in the
Yeah.
country, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's not
Mm.
like anyone knew how to handle this at all. I realize now that the more I look into this case, I feel like there's even more questions that come up. So I don't know, I can try to find out more about this part. But it's not going to be, it's not something that's out there and easily discoverable. For instance, in this episode, there will be a lot of details that I had a hard time organizing into some sort of a logic because a lot of things are kind of connected with each other. So it might be that you would ask something and then I actually already plan to talk about it a bit later. So the next development in this case happens in 1995. And I did leave you with a cliffhanger last time that was related to this next development.
So this is
So
6 years later.
it's 4 years later.
Ah, shit. Because I thought, okay. Oh, no, no. I was talking about the regime change was in 89. Okay. Sorry. That was a
Yeah,
bit
that
of
was
a.
89.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that was 89. The kidnapping was 91. And then this next interesting thing. So, and also, by the way, the case was, or the investigation was closed in 92, February
Mhm.
92.
Yep.
And then the next interesting thing happens in 95. So in 1995, the police start looking for Juhas again in relation to another unsuccessful kidnapping case in a different Hungarian city. You would
So
probably want to ask about this other case.
yeah,
And I would also probably ask which city. But
Oh,
yeah.
I know the city. I think the city, actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the city was Kecskemét. It was not Orosháza or Szeged. It was a different city,
So
but
completely different
not too
region in
far.
a. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit more central, but I wouldn't say it's a completely different region. It's pretty close. But unfortunately, I could not find any information about this other case. I don't know what happened there. I tried. I didn't like put, hours of research into it, but I
Mhm.
tried to find what this like unsuccessful kidnapping case was because it sounds pretty mysterious, but I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
Maybe.
unsuccessful kidnapping case sounds like you just try to kidnap someone and then someone runs away. It's like, fuck, that guy just tried to kidnap me. Or
Yeah,
did
and
they
I don't
kidnap but
know.
they got away? Or like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. So this is kind of how it was phrased in every article that there was a case. Maybe I don't know if it was actually unsuccessful because they could not kidnap this person or something else went wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, the point is that they start looking for him related to this case in 1995, and they are unable to find him. So in April 1995, the police decide to reach out to Juhas through messages published in newspapers, in which they tell him to come forward and make a confession in this other case. They also mention in these newspaper messages the possibility of a plea deal in return for his confession.
But
How do
that's
we
really like,
feel about this?
I feel that's very far-fetched. I mean, maybe that's not the right word for it, but like, if I had a suspect that I just need to first reach out to, I would start the message just like, "This is the police. We need information from you. Please come," or something like, not like, "Come and make the confession. We know you did it."
It's a little bit weird.
Exactly.
I don't know
Yeah.
if they already, like, how they already knew that that he had to do something with that case. Um, but he was like in hiding or something like that, so they couldn't find him. And then this was the kind of the solution that let's publish these public articles in newspapers and maybe he will come forward.
I think that's also a bit of a a bumble from the police, I would say, because if I would be actually guilty of this crime, I would be then in the meantime, okay, I need to establish an alibi. I'm going to call this person to either tell them to say that I'm with them the whole night or whatever, just kind of
Mhm.
lie about the whole incident or something, just
Yeah, it's annoying that we don't know anything about the case because it might be that he knew that it's obvious that he's involved for some reason. So he was, intentionally hiding from the police.
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe the other interesting part in these messages is that they mentioned this plea bargain possibility to kind of
Yeah.
motivate him
it's
to come forward.
it sounds very Wild West or something. This whole, yeah, we're looking for this guy, wanted dead or alive, but in this case, definitely alive. And then we're offering a plea deal and whatever. Like, it's kind of, what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just very Wild West style kind of
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a
advertisement.
traditional method. But anyway, as I mentioned last time, they do end up finding him in the same year in 1995, in August 1995. But unfortunately, he is found dead in an irrigation canal near Kojan-Újfalu, which is a small village about 50 kilometers to the west from Orosháza. So same region, but different
Oh.
city.
Somehow from the last episode, I thought that they just find out that, okay, actually he was dead. But the thing is
Yeah,
that they find him dead, like they
yeah.
find his dead body.
Yes, but I
Wow.
didn't specify because I didn't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
want to tell you exactly how or why he was dead, but he was found dead. And even more interestingly, he was shot in the head 5 times,
I was about to
execution
say,
style.
it sounds very conspicuous being in an irrigation canal. I'm like, this
Yeah,
sounds like someone's trying to keep him silent. So that actually put kind of a target on his back by the police saying, hey, come forward with this information. We know that you're a suspect. Okay, well, they know he has something to do with it, so let's fucking kill this guy. And
yep,
there you go.
yeah, yes, exactly. So, in that sense, was this a good idea to mention in the message in the newspaper that there's this possibility? Because it definitely did put a target on his back. It seems like it because he was shot in the head like from the back, so 5 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice. But there are no other like obvious physical evidence found on the scene. And interestingly, according to the medical examiner's report, he died around April in the same year, which is exactly around the time when these messages were published in the newspaper.
Okay, so it was
Ah,
like pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I don't know how accurately they could estimate the time then,
Yeah.
but I guess based on the decomposition and things like that, it was several months.
fucking Christ. I just,
Yeah.
I,
So Yeah, continue.
I'm sorry, the police are just what the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I
in the
can't.
first part, they didn't like, they just sent him home, right? Like, no,
Yeah,
we don't need your information.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I can't blame them, of course, because being in the socialist era, like the Soviet Russia, I would say shadow for so long, like with the
Mm-hmm.
Western policing styles and stuff, they're maybe not so integrated at this point. Like
Yeah.
slow to learn these kind of more like Western or more advanced, I would say, policing techniques and stuff like that. So can't really blame them, but I'm just, dear fucking God, use your
But it's
common
still
sense.
so weird that even if they sent them away at first, why
Yeah,
didn't they?
call them
Or
back.
maybe they
Or
did. Maybe they did. It's just not really discussed anywhere. So there are some of these things that that I didn't find any mention of.
mm,
But it doesn't sound like they did question them or they did anything else with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we will find out actually a lot more about both of those two guys. So after they find Juhas, the suspicion was quickly directed at his friend Chopo, because one, he was very familiar with the area where his body was found, and two, his involvement in this other case that I mentioned was also suspected. So they think that he was likely worried that Juhas would give him up in a potential plea bargain that was mentioned in the newspaper. So exactly what you suspected, Laura. That's what they think. So he is kind of the only logical suspect in the
Mm.
case. And they think that Chapo probably invited Juhas for a shooting practice to this field
I'm sorry,
and
that's
shot
kind
him
of
unexpectedly.
that's so fucking sinister. Just I'm sorry. I have like
I
a bit of
know,
a
yeah.
I don't know. I laugh in really uncomfortable situations, and especially like instances where I shouldn't be laughing, but it's almost like I'm going to invite you to dinner, like this joke of, yeah, but we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have you for have you over for dinner, in
Mm-hmm.
English or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I'm going to invite you for shooting practice, but little do you know you're the target. That's
Yeah.
so fucked.
This is another
Like,
detail that, and I will try to always mention this, and it's the case with a lot of these details in this case. It's another one of those that were mentioned. I don't know if this was just kind of how the prosecution like presented the case, that this was most likely what happened. Yeah, we don't know, but this is what they think that probably happened. Also, it was not that easy to have a gun in Hungary in the 90s, and also it's not easy now. It's not a common thing. People don't usually have guns. So yeah, it's not like an everyday thing that you invite someone for shooting practice.
Yeah. So either you are registered to some kind of shooting club and have a gun from there, or it's an illegal one. I guess that's also possible if they're anyway
Yeah,
involved to this
or if
suspicious
you're a
stuff.
hunter or something.
Yeah, yeah, hunting. Yeah.
but can I bring up there was the there was something that they were also involved in, like, was it stealing cars, Chapo and Juhas, or was it more that they kind of had like this ties with some type of bigger criminal organization, or were there people that they were associated with? Was there any information
Maybe
about this? Okay, yeah.
there might be later on,
Okay, okay.
but yeah,
So that's
it
kind of like a shut the fuck up, don't ask a question. I might cover this later, or
well, or pretty soon, but
okay,
yeah, it's there's
okay,
not no clear answer to this question. I can only tell you
okay.
at this point. Um, I don't know what I told you in the last episode about their history. They were not. Neither of them were convicted for any crime before they were, I think, even yeah, before this, or before they were first suspected in Helga's disappearance. So then they were not like known criminals.
Yeah, I think I just got the vibe they weren't, yeah, known criminals, quote unquote, but at the same time they were these kind of guys that you would see in high school or lukio in Finland or something, that are, the guys that are smoking cigarettes and like chilling out, not really taking classes seriously, kind of, you would go to them for drugs, for instance. You know, they would know to where to get some stuff. They're like, you know, just they have some connections
Yeah.
to the darker side of society,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and this is kind of the vibe that comes across from the sources that I found. So probably that's why I gave you that impression. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's not wrong. I don't yeah, it doesn't seem wrong. So now a lot of interesting things happen after this. Actually, after Juha's funeral, his wife comes forward and tells the investigators that her husband, Juhas, confessed to her earlier that, by the way, he and Chapo were the ones who kidnapped Helga. So this is what the wife says.
Wow.
Ac- According to her, Juhas told this story. They stopped Helga on Road 47, so this is the main road between the two cities that we talked about halfway between Orosháza and Szeged. After the kidnapping, they took her back to Orosháza and locked her in the inspection pit of a rented garage. After a few days, when the ransom investigations were not really going anywhere and they knew that the police is already involved, Chapo put a bag over Helga's head and strangled her with a string. Then, with the help of Juhas, they took her body to an unused sewer in Orosháza and left her there. And about a year later, they were still nervous that maybe her body could be found eventually, so they decided to take her to a forest near Gádoros, which is another small town nearby, where they poured gasoline on the body and burned it. Because of this testimony, they reopened the investigation in Helga's case.
Obviously. Yeah, this sounds like there is like, what did the police do after the testimony?
This is
And
the difficult thing, because it's not Juhas telling the story, but it's his wife
yeah,
saying that
Ah,
he
so
made this
she doesn't.
confession
So
to.
she
yeah.
doesn't really have the
She doesn't have the
coordinates.
no, and she doesn't have any other details, or at least
Hmm.
this is what the story that I found she told.
But then
It's
did she
not like he
ever
said that, oh, it was exactly by this
yeah,
specific place.
yeah, give her the
Yeah.
coordinates and etc. But I feel like was there any other like in these situations I feel like there has to be some information that the police withheld to check with people who are coming up with some different stories or something,
Mhm.
right? Like there has to be something that only the murderer would know that the police would ask, like, hey, what was done during this time or something like was there how do they abduct her with the car or these types of things where
Yeah,
they know what happened, but then
I don't know
maybe
if the
the
police is asking these questions, but other people ask a lot of questions
yeah, okay.
still.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's difficult, because they don't have the body. So it's hard to pinpoint anything that, only the murderer would know. Like they don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
have any physical evidence. They
Yeah.
do have a few things that were found in and around her car.
Or if
But
the wife would have given lots of details, for example, oh, it was that carriage and the third door, or I don't know. But
mhm,
apparently, the story that her husband had told wasn't that detailed.
it
More like,
doesn't
oh, we
sound
went
like
to
it.
this carriage and put her there, and then we found this place type of.
Yeah. I don't even
Yeah.
know if she was told or she remembered or mentioned where was this place where she was held.
But then also at the same time, I'm just thinking, why would she lie about this? Because if they had a good relationship, I would have to look at the relationship of them to see whether they had a, loving
Hmm.
and etc. relationship. And like, for instance, if me and my partner, like, okay, my partner died, and then if I could maybe bring some closure to another family or something, I would
Yeah.
then do that because that's
Yeah.
like they're no longer here, for instance. I would just think like, okay, did they have a contentious relationship where she's trying to like sully the name of them or whether she's actually trying to cause some good or something with this testimony or not. Or is she trying to be in the media? Like what is her intentions is my question.
But I think it could be either, like as like your example that okay, if your partner is dead anyway, there's no harm for him about
Yes.
telling. So it could be after a good relationship that you decide that okay, now I can tell it without harming my partner.
Yeah, just
Or it can also be like I fucking hated him and I want like everyone to know what kind of monster he was. Now I will tell
yeah,
it. Maybe
yeah,
she was
But
afraid of him. Maybe there was domestic violence why she couldn't tell it.
yeah,
Or maybe she thought that she will be in trouble. Like there's so
yeah.
many possible
But then at the
reasons.
same, but I would just want to know why she's now coming forward. Is she really just
Yeah.
wanting to just like, hey, I just want everybody to know that they did it for sure. Like he was serious when he told me. I wish I had more
it's not that she
information.
could tell that they did it for sure, but yeah, that
Yeah, yeah, okay, but yeah,
I'm not
I
saying
mean,
that she's that she's intentionally lying or anything like that, but I think it's interesting, and maybe it's still true, but it's interesting that what you mentioned, Petra, that it's not causing any harm for her husband anymore because he's dead, but it does incriminate Chapo more
Yeah.
anyways, this scenario, because it says that he was the one who strangled her.
Yeah. And here we don't know like what was the relationship of the wife and the husband's friend. Like she
Yeah.
might have hated him or she might have liked him or
Well, and
like it
it
can be
seems
anything.
like he probably murdered her husband.
Yeah. Yes, that would give a pretty good motive to tell this story. That's true.
Yeah.
Like, catch this fucking guy who killed my husband. And by the way, another woman, girl.
So the next thing that happens in 1998, so 3 years after this, Chapo is finally charged with the murder of Juhas. And based on only this testimony of the wife, he was also charged with the kidnapping of Helga and blackmailing her family. We discussed this in the last episode that kidnapping was not the actual legal term that they used back then because it was not included in the Hungarian criminal law yet in 1991. It was added in 93, and this trial started in 98, but because
You
it
can't.
happened in 91, yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you can't, but they decided not to. I don't know how it works
I think at
exactly.
least like in modern legal systems, you can't charge anyone of a crime that wasn't crime at the time that the crime was committed.
Yeah. 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 So this is what they do.
you say that during one of the whispering, I see you smiling behind the mic. I don't know if
Exactly my
I'm
next
on.
point.
Okay, okay, I'll just stop talking. But or maybe I'll just say the question, then you can
Yes.
continue. But so my point was that you said that during one of the calls, the caller stopped whispering and then used their voice. And was
Hmm.
this indeed the clue that they used to corroborate that this indeed was Chapo, for instance, in the
Yes, it
call? And
was
that's
the
why they were,
other.
you know,
Yeah, it was the other kind of key evidence in the trial that they presented. And because of two things. First of all, Helga's father, he also knew Chapo, so he thought that he recognized his voice after the calls. I don't know, because like, when did he recognize him? When he was already a suspect, and then it's not uncommon that witnesses think that they recognize someone. But this is what I found, that he said that he recognized that it was his voice. And also they used a voice recognition program. The police used, I don't know how sensitive this program was in 98 or around that time, but they used some voice recognition program and identified Chapo as the caller with 90% certainty, thanks to that one occasion when he made a mistake and was not whispering. So they used that one segment.
Related to this, I don't know if this was, or if you know that, but was the fact that the calls were whispered, was it public information?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, yeah.
They
I was
called
just,
they
yeah.
called him the whisperer in the newspaper.
Okay, then it was pretty public.
Very creative.
Yeah. Okay, then you can assume that everyone knows it. So
Hmm.
I was just thinking that if they just without any explanation asked the suspect to, hey, could you whisper to the mic for a while. And if the
Yeah,
suspect is like,
no.
no shit, then you kind of can
Yeah,
suspect them more. But okay, if it was a common information, then it doesn't make
yeah,
any sense.
it was public. And yeah, I mean, it's a nice addition, anyways, since they didn't have any very concrete or hard evidence.
Mm.
But this is something that the defense used as a counter argument that, you know, you can't be sure that it's him based on the voice recognition or whatever. Yeah, but these were the main pieces of evidence: the second-hand confession from Juhas and the voice recognition. And during this trial, Chapo was also charged with several other robberies that he committed during the past years, including a bank robbery and also a robbery of another businessman from Orosháza, who I'm going to refer to as F, because F will come up later, so keep him in mind. His name is also publicly out there, so it can be found, but then I decided not to use his full name because I don't think that would give any additional value to the case. We'll come back to this trial, but now I wanted to get to the theories and the weird controversies about this scenario that was presented in the trial. First, I will say that many people do really indeed accept this theory that it was just these two guys, Juhas and Chapo, who kidnapped and most likely also murdered Helga, and basically consider the case solved, including actually the lead investigator at the time. And as far as I could tell from the different articles, also most of the police. So not just a couple of people, but this is kind of the general consensus. It also sounds like Helga's father thinks this happened. He told the press that he believes that mostly Chapo was responsible, but still many questions are left open. So I made a list of these questions and different controversies that I came across in my sources. So based on the confession that was made by Juhas to his wife, the first thing that he said that they stopped Helga around halfway between Orosháza and Szeged. But this part seems a bit questionable, or many people question this scenario. First of all, this place, halfway between the cities on the main road, it's a busy place. And it's, by the way, it's only one lane. Laura, you asked this the last time and I didn't know. It's just one lane, but it's still a main road. And even though this was in the evening, probably not fully dark because it was in the summer, but nevertheless, it's risky to stop someone on a main road without any witnesses, like, or any potential witnesses seeing them meet up there. Even if this was probably not a, you know, like a violent kidnapping, because we established before that they knew each other, and they also had this meet up a few days before the kidnapping with these two guys. When they met on the road, they stopped her, they tried her car, or Chapo drove her car, or something like that. Still, like, why would you try to kidnap her, you know, in the middle of the main road?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Then the second point is, how did they know? And this is actually more important, or the bigger question to me. How did they know when she was leaving from Orosháza and that she will be alone? Because this was not the plan. The plans only changed a few hours beforehand, and according to the original plan, they were supposed to leave together with Helga's mother and sister in two cars. So did they want to kidnap everyone? How do you stop two cars? Even if you stop only one car, wouldn't the other car or the people in the other car notice that something is wrong? So how did they know that she's, you know, going to drive there alone?
Maybe. Well, this is my theory too. A possible answer
Yeah.
would be that they didn't plan it. That they kind of met her in the oil changing place, and then they were like, "Hey, but she's super rich. Let's kidnap her." And then, you know,
Yeah.
decided to do it
Okay.
now spontaneously.
Sure. Yeah, that's possible. And I was even thinking that maybe they did meet her in Orosháza in the evening or in the late afternoon, and they knew that she was going back alone, and that plans have changed. But why? would they drive 30 minutes away from the city and then wait for her to come and then kidnap her there, or follow her for such a long time and then only try to kidnap her later?
I was thinking that maybe they left together, like just casually, like, yeah, we are also going to that way, and drove together with her. And then they just waited for a situation that there's no other traffic. And then they, showed some kind of uh, sign lights that, hey, we have to stop. Like sometimes when you drive with someone, like, you know, there's something, we need to stop. And she's like, oh, what is it now? And they both car stops and then they
Yeah.
kidnap her.
Yeah.
I think this is the best scenario because now this I think I raised the point last episode then you asked like, oh, but how did they know that she was going to be driving alone with the mother? Well, they probably met up in Oroshaisa and they were talking, and now they knew that the plan had changed. Like, this is the best scenario that
Yeah.
someone could know. So I think this
That's
is
true.
up till this point, this is the best case, I
But wouldn't
think.
it be easier to kidnap her still in Oroshaza?
No, because then there's
No?
more witnesses and stuff. In this
Yeah.
regard, I would say that this is the best thing that yeah, you can see cars for many miles or kilometers or miles down the road. I'm guessing because it's quite I'm supposing or insinuating this is quite a straight road. It's not going to be a windy road
Yeah.
in Hungary.
Yeah. Well, it's a very flat place.
Yeah, because it's the plains of Hungary. So
Yeah.
I would assume that it's quite flat, so you can see quite a long distance away, and then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
now's the time, and then yeah, as Petter says, do the flashing lights, etc. Hey, we're
Yeah.
pulling over. She pulls over, and then you have two people at least, because there has to be at least two people, because one person has to drive the car to abduct, and then the other person has to drive her car. But then the
Yeah.
other thing that I brought up last episode is that none of them were tall enough, but then this could easily have been faked to, hey, yeah, just put the
Sure.
car seat back a bit more, etc. You know, who
Yeah.
knows?
Okay. So let's say they did kidnap her halfway between these two cities. But then there are other problems with this. Because if they did that and then they drove her back to Oroshaza, like they said, and put her in this garage in the like, in this pit, then the timeline doesn't really work out. Because maybe you remember that in the last episode I told you that the first phone call that the family received, the police could trace where that phone call was coming from. And it was made after 11 p.m. It was coming from Lajosmije, which is a city far away from Orosháza and kind of on the way to Budapest.
I didn't know that this was the first call though. I thought this was like
It
one of
was.
the calls. Okay, all right.
I think in
But
the last episode I might have said that the first calls. I'm not
uh,
sure if it was the first calls. I think it might just be the very first one, but maybe the second one too, because then they called back later on when the father already got home.
I mean, could it have been that like one of the people took her to Oroshais and then the other one went far away to take the call on the way to
Yeah, that
Okay,
Budapest?
was
yes, I
one
will
thing I
get
was
to
also
I will get
thinking.
to this
Yeah.
point as well in a
I
second.
saw you nodding, Petra. I was like, yeah, that's my point. But yeah.
Another thing I thought was that the possibility of the wife not remembering all details, that maybe they didn't say that they went back to the city, but to Budapest, or
Yeah. But they
Yeah.
did say that they took her to this rented like garage in
Yeah,
Orosháza and kept
that's
her there and then
oddly
strangled
detailed to
her.
remember her falsely.
And they also told that they put her in this sewer in Orosháza after she was murdered. The police only know that the wife says that they put her in this sewer and then moved her in a year. She doesn't know where this place was. I don't think they assume that there could be, like, how do they find it? It could be anywhere. And then what, like, how, if they don't assume that there's like some pieces of clothing or something like that, like, where do you look for the DNA?
Yeah, too much work.
Yeah.
unlike for the Japanese police when they check the many hundred or thousand bottles
Well,
of
this is
beer
not the
for the
Japanese
traces
police.
of drugs.
I think they
Yeah.
literally just put all those empty bottles into like a big barrel and then use that for their piccolo or something for
Maybe.
years to come. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think they were this thorough in this case.
yeah, they probably didn't have that much funding as well. I would
Yeah,
think,
I
but
guess so. But anyways, about this phone call from Lajos Mizse or close to this town, they could not have possibly made it there on time to make the
Yeah.
phone call if they first drove back to Orosháza with Helga and then all of them or just the two guys then drove to Lajos Mizse because it was not enough time to make the phone call and to get there. So I think one of the more logical scenarios would be that they captured her somewhere, maybe in between the two cities, maybe still in Orosháza, and then they drove together to this bridge in Algyő that was not too far from Szeged. They left the car there and then started heading to Budapest, and Lajos Mizse is on the way, like I said, so they could have made the phone call and then the timing would be perfect. So this is one option.
Yeah.
But then it means that she was not in Orosháza, like it said in the confession. And also remember that the caller also said in one of the calls to the father that come up to Budapest or something like that. We don't know why he said this, but maybe because she was also there.
But I mean, the wife could have gotten it wrong about the timeline as well. Like she could have been stored there in Orosháza after this call. It doesn't mean that she was immediately placed in Orosháza. So this timeline makes sense, right? I mean, if
But
they
why did they go to Budapest then to make the phone call from there?
because to put in
To
the opposite
confuse
direction.
everyone.
Yeah, I would have done that too. I would have put them in the opposite direction into a bigger city that she's stored. Maybe like
Mm-hmm.
in a big city where they're not able to check, but then with Orosháza, like hell, I definitely would have done that. That would have been my go-to thing.
But isn't it a bit more dangerous too? Like, kind of drive up there with her, make the phone call, then come back.
No, because
I
then
don't know.
people
I
would
just don't
already
think this
be.
is like the most simple explanation.
I think it is. In my mind, it's really
Yeah.
simple. Yeah, like if I'm putting myself in the mind of the criminal, I would be like, okay, let's throw off the scent, go up to
But they were
like,
calling from like some phone booth. Like, do you think they thought
yeah,
that, oh, yeah, sure, like the police will locate this call? Because at that point, I don't
at
actually
least
know how
Mm.
they located this call, but they just called the family home. So they had no way to assume that the police had already knows about this.
I mean, I would also assume that yes, they who knows, like of course with movies and stuff like, yeah, trace the call, like everybody kind of knows this type of stuff. No one really knows what goes on. It's always a possibility that someone would
Hmm.
trace the call. And then the other thing is that of course like they could have asked her about the phone number and stuff like that, but who knows, they could have also had the phone number without her. Like one of them could
Yeah.
have been there. Like they know her phone number or asked her. Yeah. Anyway, but like I
Yeah.
think this
Yeah.
makes the most sense that
I
I
mean,
would go the
why
opposite.
would she not tell the phone number anyways? Because we could assume that her aim
Yeah.
was to like get back home. So
Yeah.
then of
Yeah.
course she
Yeah.
would tell them.
But this is like my instinct as a
So you think they all went
yes.
first to like, oh, you left the car, then went up
Yes.
to Lajos Mizse, made the phone
Yeah.
call, and then went back
Yes.
to Orosháza.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, sure. I think that's a possibility. I don't
I
know.
mean, I would have either gone to
Just
like
to mislead the police from the
yeah, yeah, why not?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe they
Or
had something else there to do. Maybe they had to,
yeah.
I don't know, take something from Budapest. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Like,
just was
yeah.
not something that well, kind of my point is here that there are things that are not completely accurate in this
Hmm. Hmm.
confession that Juhas told her wife, or at least what the wife says he told her.
Hmm.
It could not have happened kind of exactly the same way
Yeah, or
from
there's like at least huge parts missing from the
yeah.
story.
It
I
there
mean, you can
could be
always
another option.
yeah. I mean, you could always take these at face value because one person is remembering a second telling
Mm.
of a
Yeah.
tale many years later, and even if
Mhm.
I was the person who was abducting, I'd be like, "Fuck, what did we do first? Did we go to Budapest, or did we go to Szeged, or what the fuck did we do?" Like, I mean,
Yeah, but
you're
then I just assume that if they did go to Budapest or at least to that direction, they had to have a reason. I feel like they had to have a reason other than just wanting to mislead the police with the
Mm.
location of the phone call.
I mean, maybe they could have had another accomplice too. That could also be another reason or something like
Yeah.
that.
So here's another possibility, and
Mm.
it kind of involves this. It's I think it's possible that someone took Helga to this garage in Orosháza first, and then the other person took the Mazda to the bridge, and then started heading to Budapest. But then it had to have been two people if they left. So like, let's assume they kidnapped her. I don't know, halfway between the two cities. One person
Mhm.
took her to Orosháza. There had to have been two people who drove the Mazda and then with two cars and then continued driving. But there's no mention of another person in the confession. But the next point that I wanted to mention was this possibility of someone else being involved, because there are also some other signs that are kind of pointing to this direction or not. But I thought it's worth discussing. So, based on the evidence that was found in Helga's abandoned car, they found that the height and the shoe size of the driver did not match either of the suspects. So, it did not match Juhas or Chapo's height or shoe size. And then apparently there was also this unidentified palm print that was found in the rearview mirror. And I can only assume that it did not match either of these two guys because it's written everywhere that it's still unidentified. So I guess they checked the two of them at some point if it's coming from them or not. But it's not explicitly written anywhere. It just, yeah, it's just referred to as an unidentified palm print. So who was driving? So it kind of suggests that maybe it was not one of them who was driving the Mazda, but
Mm.
someone else. Or they are criminal masterminds and then just like changed the uh, seat, adjusted the seat to a different height, and then left a bigger shoe print there somehow.
But I'm just like, I still have a question about the shoe print because I just
Hmm.
feel my mind immediately goes to the police bumbling once again the crime scene
Yeah,
because they don't really know that this was, oh, just a missing
could
car.
be their
It could
own
have could be their own
shoe print.
footprint. Yeah, in my mind, then that
Mm.
the shoe print means nothing because yeah, just means
Yeah,
nothing.
maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know about the palm print on the mirror.
That could have easily been the mechanic also doing, I don't know, even though you usually don't need to change the mirror, maybe it's like this one
Hmm.
of these automatic things that you do when you get into a car. You kind of like adjust the rear view mirror to back up the
Yeah,
car, you know. It could have easily
I
been
would
one of the
like to think that
mechanics.
they compared it with the mechanic
But I'm just
palm
questioning
print.
probably not. I'm
Yeah,
thinking not.
it's just brought up as an unidentified palm print. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know more about it. So remember that also the last time I told you that, and this is like related to why maybe this confession was not entirely accurate. So in the end of the last episode, I mentioned that there was a witness testimony based on which Helga's Mazda was seen leaving Orosháza with the lights off, being closely followed by a white BMW with at least three people sitting in it. We know that, of course, witness testimonies can be inaccurate, but also a white BMW would be quite like memorable or easily recognizable in Hungary. It's
Yeah.
also a Western car. And it is possible that at this point, it was not Helga who was driving the Mazda anymore, but someone else. And she was sitting in the other car. Or what we talked about at the beginning, that she was still sitting in the Mazda and they were already following her there. And then for some reason, they only kidnapped her later on. But the testimony seems to be probably legit for some other reasons too. It turns out that um, Juhas's wife actually had a white BMW herself or on her name officially that matches the description of this car that was seen following the Mazda. And this car,
Sorry. What?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A lot more about the cars coming up now. That's, I think, super interesting. This white BMW, even though it wasn't the wife's name, it was regularly used by Chapo. And interestingly, their car disappeared not too long after the kidnapping. How did it disappear? Here's what we know about how it disappeared. We know quite a lot of things that could explain this. So on July 27th, 1 month after Helga was kidnapped, Juhas contacted the Hungarian police's International Organized and Drug Crime Service.
Mhm.
And in a secret testimony, he reported that Chapo has relations with an international criminal gang that was specialized in car theft. Just this, like not anything about Helga, but just he called in to report on his friend. He continued to tell that on July 18th, so 9 days earlier, before he called in, and about 2.5 weeks after Helga's disappearance, the two of them, Juhas and Chapo, traveled to Munich in a black BMW. By the way, they were also apparently seen in a black BMW on the same day that Helga disappeared. So there were these white and black cars. There in Munich, Chapo got into a white BMW in the parking lot, which was already in Munich 2.5 weeks after the disappearance. And then with these two cars, they drove to Italy. And then in Trieste, Chapo left the white car in a parking lot. Then they went to the city, spent the night there with the black car, and then they went back to pick up the white BMW, but it was already gone. And according to Juhas, Chapo told him that, oh, well, it was stolen. And he also told the Italian police and the Hungarian police the same thing, that it must have been stolen. But it is a bit more likely that it was the same car that was used for the kidnapping and they made it disappear intentionally. But who took it to Munich?
I'm starting to think that the wife was involved with this all. Also because there was
I'm starting to
3
think that
people in the
someone was
movie.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not the wife. I don't
Yeah.
think it was necessarily the wife, but
But she was married already to Juhas
yeah.
during the time when Helga was kidnapped. Yeah.
But do we believe that Juhas didn't know this, that they took the car there? Because he is like telling this story that and
No.
Chapo did this and told me that, oh, like it just
No.
disappeared and I was just for some reason driving there with
No.
this other car.
No, he knew everything in my mind. But my point is, like, I remember last episode you also said that there was this random tip from München or from Munich
Mhm.
about there was some people were talking
Yeah. Good that you
about
remembered that. Yeah.
yeah.
So this tip, so there was a tip exactly on July 18th when Juhas and Chapo were reportedly in Munich. And this tip came from an unknown caller this caller was calling the Hungarian police and he sounded very nervous. And he said that he overheard a conversation that Helga was taken to Germany and might be taken even further away from there. And actually, the police think someone thinks, I don't know who thinks this, that it was actually Juhas who
I was
called.
about to say, could it have been Juhas in this? Like, I was
But interestingly,
thinking,
he doesn't say this. He doesn't bring this up in the report like 9 days after this. So someone calls the police about this overheard conversation on the 18th of July. And then Juhas reports on Chapo to the authorities on the 27th. So then he doesn't say that, oh, by the way, I also called in. But I think that would incriminate him even more. Or maybe he also was, because apparently he sounded very nervous and like very scared of the consequences. So it could be that he didn't want to kind of mention anyone else or kind of anything else about this whole kidnapping case.
and
Maybe it was,
I'm also
yeah.
thinking, like, how common was it for a Hungarian person to understand another Hungarian person in Munich during this
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
speaking about the Helga Farkas
It's a bit weird, yeah.
kidnapping. It's very, very particular. So I think
And
that
they're in
one of the
public talking about this. That, oh, Helga
yes,
is here, and now we're taking her to
yes,
Italy. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like
that
a really stupid crime drama. Like, I just
Mhm.
happened to be traveling and happened to meet someone from the same country who were
yeah.
just happened to
Yeah.
talk about this current crime case.
It sounded to me in the sources where this came up, which was not all of them, because a lot of articles, like I said, kind of conclude the case with that it was just these two guys. This is what happened. They didn't take Helga anywhere. She was in Orosháza. But in other sources, when these like kind of unanswered questions come up, yeah, this was. I found this in some of those. Anyway, this whole car theft criminal organization was also corroborated by a request that was sent by the Interpol to the Hungarian authorities around the same time, which indicated that there is a criminal organization that's smuggling stolen cars from Western Europe to Hungary. And this document mentions a woman from Orosháza who had close relations with Chapo in the early 90s. It's not Helga, but like a woman who is also involved. And apparently, this same woman will later have some other like confidential relationship. I don't know what kind of relationship with one of the lead investigators in the case against Chapo. But anyways, there's this Interpol report talking about this car smuggling organization. So yeah, what Juhas is saying in that report is yeah, seems to be in line with this.
So you're basically saying it's an inside job later on in the investigation because basically this woman who is
I'm not saying that. I'm
okay,
just
okay. We're speculating that it could
yeah.
possibly, maybe, on a slight chance, be an inside job because this one woman has had a relationship with Chapo first and then has a relationship with an officer of the law, and the officer
This
of the
guy
law is
yeah.
possibly, maybe, could be speculatively trying to protect this woman. Maybe, possibly.
Maybe I will have some more information about this later if we get there. But yeah, I mean, at least this piece of information kind of is suggesting that. I don't think that in the Interpol report they said anything about her like relationship with this police investigator, but I think it was mentioned, like Chapo was mentioned, this woman was mentioned, and this whole like car smuggling business. Okay. There's another investigator who has been working on solving Helga's case for a long time, Gabor Palatinus, who also believes that there is an organized crime or mafia angle in the whole story, that Chapo was part of, was behind the whole like planning and executing of the kidnapping. And his theory is that Helga was taken to Italy and murdered there. So kind of the other people in the police and the other like the lead investigators, they don't think this is true, but there's this one guy who says that he thinks this is true.
So there was the lira, right? That was
Hmm.
found in the
Yeah.
car as well.
Yeah.
So this would also possibly point out that there could be a wider ring where they're constantly having to go from Hungary
To
to
Italy.
Hungary to
Yeah.
Italy,
Mm.
etc., back and forth.
Yeah, it could be that it was like came from like Chapo smuggling or taking Helga to Italy. Maybe it's of course it's not impossible, but it would have been, I think, like kind of difficult in the 90s to cross all the borders
Mm.
with someone who doesn't want to be kidnapped.
Yeah.
I also had a few other points to add that why this testimony of Juhas's wife was potentially inaccurate. Of course, we already discussed that maybe she just didn't remember all the details. Maybe Juhas didn't tell her the full story. An interesting thing, though, that I found is that she was threatened and beaten in between her testimonies or before or during Chapo's trial. So there was this happened as well, that she was like kind of someone tried to send a message or like silence her not to tell or give up too much details. I found this in one or two articles. So I'm also
Mm.
going to say that I don't know. I don't know if it's like 100% accurate, but something I found.
This kind of makes me think that she was actually involved in some way, that she
Or
wasn't
knew
just like,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, my husband just told me this story one day in the breakfast,
Hmm.
and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so you were involved in kidnapping and murder. Good. Have a nice day. I mean, often if your partner is a criminal, you are involved. Like
Yeah. Or
non-criminal
if she
people
knew
don't want to
about
be
it.
married to criminals per
Yeah.
default.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least she knew, maybe potentially knew about it, that there are other, or
Yeah.
that there's this kind of bigger organization around this whole
Yeah.
kidnapping or around this whole case. And someone else is involved, and she doesn't necessarily want to involve more people or like accuse more people. But then Chapo actually killed her husband, so that's probably a good enough reason to want to send someone to prison.
And maybe it was intentional that she told the story with like sounding that it was just these two guys who did it, very local stupid job. Please
Hmm.
now investigate Chapu. Because
Yeah,
if she knows about the organized crime and stuff, she doesn't want to, get punished by them, but she
yeah,
wants
yeah,
revenge on Chapu.
yeah. There's another possibility that is discussed and comes up sometimes, which is, was Helga involved in her own kidnapping? And first, when I found this in some articles, I was like, nah, I don't know. Of course, this always comes up with every kidnapping. Still don't know if this is legit, but I just today found a book that was released in 2018 that has some interviews with investigators that were involved in this case. It's not specifically about this case, some other cases around the 90s, but it comes up. And there I was a little bit surprised to see that this was one of the main theories, or they seriously considered that this could be a possibility that she was maybe involved in her own kidnapping, kind of like that she was involved in the beginning, like she knew that, oh, maybe, I don't know, we can get some money from my father this way or something like that, and then it just went wrong. They could not actually get the money, and then he didn't want to have any witnesses left, so they ended up still murdering her. But the kidnapping part was so convenient because she was involved. One of the investigators in this interview said that he asked Helga's father about it, and then he was like, no, no, no way. But then some other times he was kind of saying that, well, I don't know, maybe. What do you think?
I mean, I
So
did
this,
think,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I did think about this. Like, she could have been the third person driving the car. Then you would easily, like, okay, then she would have gone wherever. If she was
Hmm.
along with the plan, she could have gone to Italy easily. I just have
Yeah,
so many
of course, there are
questions.
these theories too that, oh, maybe she still lives in Italy now.
No, no, no,
I
not
don't
like
know.
still
Probably
alive,
not.
but I mean, just like, was the passport, her passport, and these types of things missing from her
Yeah, I was
do
thinking the
like,
same. There's no mention of that, so I assume it was not missing, but
okay.
I don't know for sure.
But I was just thinking, like, it's easy to smuggle someone who wants to be smuggled
Yeah,
to Italy, is what I mean. So if she's still
yeah.
going along with it at this time, she
Mm.
drives the car, meets up with the guys, or someone else even, like, doesn't even have to be Chapo and Juhas. For instance, it could have been like a third guy meeting up with them, picked her up at the car, drives her back to Orosháza. Then these two guys go up to Budapest, for instance, to
Hmm.
make the phone call. That would have fit. And then,
It definitely
yeah,
would
like,
make
there's
everything
so
more
many. Yeah.
easier. Yeah, it more convenient if she was involved.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Like, I initially thought this, but I didn't want to like victim blame
I
because of
also
course.
kind of did. I actually didn't want to bring this up at all until
Yeah,
I read these interviews today.
yeah,
I
yeah,
still kind of, I don't know. I, of course, I don't know, but my feeling would be still that it was not the case. But I
yeah,
was just surprised that the investigators say that, well, that, yeah, this was something that they seriously considered, and they still might think that this could be the case, or at least in 2018 when the book was published, they did. Now back to the trial, Chapo's trial, because I think you might want to hear how that
Yes.
went. So in Helga's case, the court found the kidnapping proven. Again, it was not called kidnapping. They called it like restriction of personal freedom and blackmail. But he was not found guilty of Helga's murder. It's like we discussed it. There was not even a murder case. He was not charged with murder. There was not even a murder investigation because her body was not found. So after this verdict, her case was basically legally closed because it was anyways just a kidnapping case, so to speak. Chapo was also found not guilty of the murder of Juhas because the court did not find it proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he pulled the trigger. There was no physical evidence. So he was only found guilty in kidnapping and blackmail. And there were some of these other like robbery charges involved that I mentioned previously. So altogether, he was sentenced to, what do you think, how many years?
5 years.
Petra, what do you think?
Saying 8.
Okay, well, actually 10 years, so it's a bit
God
better.
damn it. Okay.
He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Several articles mentioned, but I will say again that not all of them, but several of them that discuss the Italian mafia theory that Palatinus, this investigator that I mentioned, believes in, or yeah. So several of these articles mentioned that an Italian man was regularly visiting Chapo in prison, and they refer to this guy as Z. And Palatinus actually thinks that this was the guy who drove the Mazda and was involved in the kidnapping the whole time. But I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if this is a fact, It's just something that came up. The Hungarian police actually never officially investigated this whole mafia theory or whole like organized crime theory at all. It does not come up in the official investigation. And actually Palatinus first talks about this publicly only in 2017. But I have to add that I asked some locals, like I mentioned last time. The people that I asked seem to recall that already in the 90s, so already right after Helga disappeared, the local gossip was that, oh yeah, this was a mafia case, like the mafia was involved for sure. It's just gossip, but I'm just saying that publicly this theory comes up in 2017. But this is already discussed earlier, unofficially. Some people think that Helga's father could have been majorly involved with some shady characters. And, there could be some even more complicated ties in the background in terms of the motivation for kidnapping. We don't know. Also, I will say that unrelated to this case, fully unrelated, I found that in some sources that the Italian mafia was actually laundering money through different businesses in many European countries, including Eastern Bloc countries, starting from the 90s, so after the regime change. So it was actually like there was an Italian mafia presence in money laundering in many countries. Just saying that this is this may or may not be related to this.
I don't think I really want to speculate that long after all of this, but I do want to say that the mafia thing could make sense because, as you said, after the 90s, they had a presence within Eastern Bloc countries. And then with the prolific businessman that Helga's father was, I would assume that he would have some type, and I'm just speculating here, of course, that he would have some, at least, dealings with parallel, maybe not directly with, but in some type of industry that the mafia also was in, especially with gambling, because I mean he had the slot machine stuff, and that is prolifically a mafia, at least in the States, I guess, business, or
I would say globally, like
globally,
wherever.
okay, yeah. So I mean, I would say that he does have some dealings with mafia in my mind, pure speculation, of course. So I think that does have something to do with this case, but I don't know whether it was Chapo or Juhas, whether they were the people who were the middlemen between the kidnapping, or whether it was literally just, I don't know.
Could be that it was just them, and then they, by the way, had these ties
Yeah,
to
yeah, but I think the
organized
mafia,
crime.
yes, I
Yeah.
think organized crime does have a part in this, but I don't know where exactly they tie in.
Yeah.
So I think that's my
Yeah, right.
end
Like
of
I
my
think,
speculation. That
yeah,
is
I
it.
kind of
So,
feel the same, like at least like getting rid of the cars. Sounds like it was a bit more like coordinated or organized, not just maybe these two guys taking care of the whole thing. So I'm sure they had some ties to some other people. I'm not saying that they were heavily involved in the kidnapping or others planned the kidnapping, but anyway, it's just weird. And the mafia comes up a lot, but not in the official investigation at all. So what happens to Chapo after this? He was released from prison for good behavior in 2006 after serving only 6 years. He talked to
so I was
some,
close then. I said 5 years.
well,
So
yeah,
maybe I just between mine and Petra's. Yeah.
he talked to some of the investigators while he was in prison and also apparently to Helga's father. And also after he got out, he kept sort of a little bit in touch with some of the investigators, but he never talked about the case. He never gave up any more details. So they never found out anything else from him. I read that he learned to speak English and got a university degree in prison and supposedly moved to the UK. I also read Ireland specifically. Some sources say that he married and has a child and a good job. To me personally, I will say that it's a little bit difficult to believe that he would be a model citizen after this, but maybe he is. He had a lot of other cases too, like we didn't really go into those, but like robberies, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. Helga's father died last year in 2022, and Helga's body was never found.
Fucking hell.
So
That makes me
we don't
sad.
know.
That was, why'd you have to end it like this? You could have put it in a bit sooner, like not the last note.
I
Right?
know it's not the last note. I do have a little bit
Okay.
more because I mentioned last week, and this is actually the last thing I want to talk about, that there is an ongoing trial that is a little bit related to this case. It's not originating from this case, but things come up.
Mhm.
Um, so there is currently an ongoing defamation trial between F, the businessman from Orosháza that Chapo robbed in the 90s, and some police investigators. F claims that sometime around 2010, he was a protected witness related to a financial fraud case. And instead of being protected, he received death threats from the police. So now the police are suing him for defamation. I don't know the details of this case. It's a, yeah, that's not directly related to Helga's case. Yeah.
So he publicly blamed that police has sent him death threats, and then police were like, You are defamating us."
Yeah. So it's a defamation case because of this. But in the same trial, apparently F, together with the investigator Palatinus, who has the Italian mafia theory, they're also trying to prove that the Italian mafia was behind Helga's disappearance and that the police should have investigated this angle, but they didn't. F alleges that his wife, his own wife, had an affair with Chapo in the 90s, and she also had a confidential relationship with, I'm not sure of what nature, but with one of the police officials in this same defamation trial, who was also the lead investigator in Chapo's case. So remember the woman that was mentioned in the Interpol report who allegedly had an affair with Chapo and then somehow was involved in the car smuggling business. It kind of sounds like it's the same woman, maybe.
Yeah, sounds like it to me.
So,
Maybe
anyways,
this
yeah, sorry.
maybe this will be our case in future years
Yeah,
when the
maybe.
trial is ended.
Anyway, F claims that his wife was never questioned related to Chapo's case. and her relationship with this police investigator was covered up, allegedly. He's saying this. The last article I read about this case said that none of the police investigators showed up in the trial, so it was kind of slow. They were always like postponing and rescheduling everything. But this is what he is claiming, that they should have questioned his wife, but they didn't. And there was some more going on, really like related to these mafia ties that were not really looked into. Palatinus, the other investigator, claims that F's brother, who died in 2013, was the contact person in Germany who helped move the cars in collaboration with Chapo and F's wife. And actually, F's brother told him more details about Helga's kidnapping before he died, but he couldn't convince him to publicly talk about it. So basically, this whole case is related to handling some level of possible police corruption that is kind of related to Helga's disappearance potentially as well. Yeah, but
So you basically have everything in this case. You have police
there's everything.
corruption, you have mafia, you have a kidnapping, you have murder, you
There's
have
everything.
armed robbery, possibly, you have everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not sure what's going to come out of this trial, really. Like
Yeah.
maybe nothing, maybe something interesting. I don't, of course, want to like speculate too heavily about it. I don't know if this is even the case, like if there's any truth behind these allegations
Yeah.
about police corruption. But I
Yeah.
thought it's interesting, so I wanted to bring it up, and I will definitely keep an eye on
Hmm.
possible updates. And if I find out something interesting, I will tell you later.
Yeah. Is there a movie about this case at all? Like,
No,
I
but
feel
there
like there
shouldn't there
needs to
be a
be.
movie?
'Cause I'm like, if there's the Monster of Morpho movie, there has to be a
Mm.
movie about this too, because this is just
But it's
fucking
so much more
insane.
recent, and actually a lot of
Hmm.
people are alive and not
Yeah,
even too
yeah,
old.
yeah. I get that too, but
Yeah.
wow. At least a documentary or something needs to be done
Hmm.
about this. This is insane.
Yeah, really, like I did not expect that this would be so complicated. And
Mm.
if I would have just told you the official investigation, that would have been a lot shorter story. But now with all of these other angles and theories and hypotheses and everything, it's super complicated. And it just kind of bothers me that I could not really confirm a lot of the things that I brought up because they were just mentioned in articles, but I really have no way to check any original sources. But yeah,
Thanks for listening to this podcast, and thanks again, Victoria, for doing all the research because it probably took many hours.
it
And
took many days.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and also doing the interviews from locals in Orashaisa and stuff
Yeah, I
too. So
wouldn't call them interviews, but some
I know, just
informal
yeah,
discussions. Yeah.
but still, that's kind of cool at least. So you know some people who are at least on the periphery involved in this. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that
mm,
I'm glad that I could make some sense out of all of these different leads. Hopefully,
yeah,
really, what
Yeah.
took the most time was organizing the
mm,
information that I found.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
Yeah.
yes, thank
It's
thanks.
really
you for listening to this really long case. If anyone who's listening to this episode has any comments or ideas or leads or
or if you happen to
speculations,
be Helga Farkas still alive somewhere.
send us an
Yeah,
email for sure.
yeah, definitely email. We can keep you confidential. I swear. But yeah, you can continue looking out for clues for the next episode or show notes and I guess terminology list for our past episodes. You can follow us on Instagram at Translation Murder Podcast. You can send us an email, even if you want to, and you can basically suggest any cases. We cover pretty much Germanic languages, Finnish, Hungarian, maybe some Romance languages depending on them. And of course, if you are interested in even being a guest speaker, for instance, you could also drop us a line and share a case from your hood or from your language that hasn't gotten any coverage in English. So yeah, send us an email at translationmurderpodcast@gmail.com, and you can also check out our website at translationmurderpodcast.com, which has all this information as well. So just don't send us any dick pics. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Please don't.
Yeah, please no dick pics. Yeah, thank you again for listening.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next week we will travel to Sweden.
Sweden, yes.
Cool.
But I can tell it's unsolved.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Now we have a lot of these unsolved, sort of
Yeah.
unsolved cases at least.
Yeah. So we're just annoying all of our listeners, but okay. Yeah. Thank you. guys.
Sorry. Bye.
E parola.
Bye bye.